been good to me. Preserved my youth. Not only did it capture my goals, it told me the truth.
Conversate for a few, cause in a few
I let them know we missing you. The love is unconditional.
Wave your hands across the land if we family.
We got a world premiere right here, now get lost.
So off we go, let the trumpets blow. And hold on, because the driver of the mission is a pro.
All right, another episode of conVersate with us. Remember, conVersate stands for communicate, converse, and relate. Make sure you follow us on social media at conVersate with us. We're trying to get good information about people who are doing good things in the community out to the world. So on today's show, I have a very special guest, Miss Ebony Jones.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome.
No problem. Good to have you. So you have a book coming out. It's a children's book. Tell us about it.
So Me and My, A Story of Sibling Sharing is an anthology of my children's moments. I have a 12-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I'm a mom. I love being a mom. I love my children, and we're always making up silly songs, making up moments together. And through being a parent, you know, we think that we're teaching so much, but we're actually learning so much. And every moment that my children are spending together, every eye contact, every laugh, every moment of anger, every tantrum, is them sharing information. And they're sharing information with each other, and they're sharing information with me. So the concept around Me and My, A Story of Sibling Sharing, is not so much around the Western perspective of sharing, being, you know, taking turns. I have something, you have to wait to play with it until I give it to you. Or, you know, the Western concept of reciprocity, which is you do something for me, I do something for you. I'm really going back to a Native Indigenous approach of reciprocity. Through the Native American language of reciprocity, the definition is if I have two and you have none, I keep one and I give you one. And so that is right. And natively, as people of color, we know that we share. Like, that's just a natural thing for us to be giving and to be sharing. So A Story of Sibling Sharing is centered around the idea that we're constantly sharing information, we're sharing time, we're sharing love. And it's not so much as, again, like I mentioned before, I have this thing, you have to wait till I give it to you. I'm going to set parameters around how I exchange with you, but really what we're doing all the time, which is sharing. So that's my inspiration behind my book.
I really like the book because I have friends who have little brothers who have a similar age gap as you and your children have. And I always admired the relationship of big brother and little brother. How little brother always followed in the steps of big brother, you know, in sports and in other things. And there was always a lot of responsibility on the big brother to look out for the younger siblings, to set a good example. And I always thought about that, how that sometimes could probably be a lot of pressure, but there was also a lot of love and care that went into that. So when I read the story, it made me think about those memories. And it made me think about my relationship with my older brothers. There was a larger gap between us, so we weren't as tight, because by the time I got to, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, they were already out the house. But I also didn't learn the concept of sharing from having siblings in the house. So it wasn't until I was out and about and my mother pointed out how two boys, like, hey, you see how they had one sandwich and one was hungry and one wasn't? And he just said, here, give me half. And they did without a problem. And I was like, oh, that's how people are supposed to be. And, you know, so I had to learn that way. So for kids like me who grew up like only children, there's an example that can be set for them by reading your book.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So what inspired you to write it other than the children? What inspired you, you know, because obviously, you know, we have these concepts, you know, I'm an author, you're an author, but what inspired you to actually, you know, let me find an illustrator, let me go ahead and write it and put it out to the world?
Well, I'm an artist, I'm a poet, and I'm a narrative writer. So I do a lot of ancestral writing inspired by dreams of the African diaspora, of our experiences. And I take a lot of inspiration from poets like Nikki Giovanni, Toni Morrison, Audre Lorde. And there's a long list of poets like Langston Hughes and Maya Angelou that I just draw a lot of inspiration from. So I'm a writer by nature. And I started writing children's books when I was like in first grade. I was taking pieces of paper, stapling them together, and like writing stories about the 1999 Dodge Neon because that was my favorite car at the time.
That was
I
a nice ride. Yeah, that was. Yeah.
So I've always sort of been this writer. That's sort of where that's where I go have my therapy. That's where I go have my release. That's where I go and explore. The idea for a children's book has sort of been around again for a very long time. I grew up with siblings, so always singing songs and writings for my little brother and my nephews when they came along. And just through, I would say when I had my own child, I really moved into an admiration for children's literature. And through him, of course, his inspiration of him being in my life, I really started cultivating stories surrounding our relationship, funny things he would do, things I was learning from him. And of course, with the pandemic, it was a nice little fire to just like get it out and to take something that was living inside me and to allow it to live outside of me, like the way my children do. So definitely, I got some inspiration from the pandemic, but prior to that, just always being a writer and being inspired by literature.
Okay. Now, the book, is it already out? Is it about to be released? How can people find it?
Yes, so the paper book or the paperback version of the book is available on Amazon. And the hardcover book is in production right now because we're working through a couple different printing companies because we haven't been liking the quality. So I do feel really proud about the last person that we're working with, our last company. And so the hardcover version will be available February 14th.
All right, February 14th, 2023. So people are going to
Yes.
be watching this in perpetuity, right? They're going to come back to this show. Um, Is there have you had any ideas about making this a series?
So I have a lot of different ideas around children's literature. This in particular will not be a series, but I do have a couple other titles that I'm working on right now. And two other titles I'll share a little bit about is they're focused on Black representation for learning the body. So we'll have sort of the body systems. An A is for anatomy, talking about the heart, talking about the lungs, but we'll have children of color mirrored in those examples as opposed to the influx of what we've been seeing our entire lives. So that is the next book that I'm working on. And then the next one is centered around dinosaurs, and my children love dinosaurs. So this will not be a series, but I definitely will continue writing.
Yeah, because I think that's important because we underestimate the importance of representation. And when I was looking at the two boys in your story, I paid attention to the different um, skin tones of the children, how everybody was represented equally. Because that's representative of my family, with my children, me and my brothers. So the inclusivity of everything that we represent, and that being in what our children learn in their first introduction to reading and to literature, is so important, especially in establishing self-pride, right? Self-esteem, and just, loving yourself. So, I really want to encourage you to keep doing this, keep putting it out so that our babies continue to learn these positive concepts. So tell people how they can find you.
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram at Ebenezer Storytime, like Ebenezer Scrooge.
Okay, cool. Well, Ebony, thank you for joining us. Much success to you. I really enjoyed reading the book, even though I'm an old man, but I thought about it for my nieces, my great nieces, future grandchildren, friends who have grandchildren. We just want to support. So go to Amazon, look up the book, give them the title again.
Me and My, A Story of Sibling Sharing.
All right. So make sure we support this sister. Get this book out there. Even if you don't have little babies, I know you know somebody that does. Buy 2 or 3 copies. Donate it to your church. Donate it to your local school. Let's make sure we get this positive information out. And make sure you follow us at conVersate with us on Facebook and Instagram. And we'll holler at you next time.